Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to another episode of Smithtown Live. And today we are at Smithtown Ninja Academy with Kathryn. Talk to us a little bit about Smithtown Ninja Academy and how you got the idea to start this, because it's obviously not a small venture to get into.
So I actually was working at one of the big four accounting firms in Manhattan when I decided that I was pretty miserable there. I was kind of looking just for ideas. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur someday. That's why I went to school. I did my master's in accounting and taxation at the University of Hartford. I was, like I said, shopping around for ideas, and I went to a franchise expo at the Jacob Javits Center. They had everything from, food industry type franchises, fitness, you name it, they had it there. And that's where I ran into, believe it or not, this is a franchise.
Oh.
I started as the very first franchisee though. So it was in the very, very early stages. And I really liked that because I was coming from such a big corporate background. I wanted to become a part of something that felt more personable.
Okay.
Right? And being the first franchisee gave me a lot of flexibility in that sense. So just like you were surprised that this is a franchise,
Yeah.
It's so small right now, most people don't even know that it's a franchise.
Right.
But it's really cool to be a part of the beginning stages. Like I said, I was the first. I have 2 locations now. Franchise owned, there are 3 locations in Connecticut. And then there is now a second franchisee, and she has 2 locations as well. So there's 7 locations now.
Wow.
And I started out when there was only 1.
Okay.
So it's been really cool to be a part of that growth. And I definitely bring a lot from my financial background into helping that. We kind of all add value to the franchise. The other woman is like a big marketing guru, so I'm like the finance, she's marketing. And the person who started the franchise, he's a gentleman from Connecticut who had been in the gymnastics industry for 35 years. So, when I explained all of the different programs and the way that we work with children here in such a unique way, that definitely comes from his experience in the gymnastics world for 35 years.
Oh, wow.
So being a part of a franchise, I know it's my first time being an entrepreneur. I don't know everything. I'll probably never know everything. Nobody will. So it's really smart to be able to have someone to look to ask any questions you may have and to learn from and to grow from. And it's really cool to be part of a team like that where we can help each other out.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about your curriculum, or whatever you want to call it, your academy, and how does it help, who comes here, and how does it help them develop?
Who comes here? A majority of who come here are children. We start at 5 and in kindergarten and go up to 14. Those are our children. But on top of that, we also cater to adults. This is like a giant playground for adults where they kind of can feel like they never have to grow up.
Yeah.
So for our children, we have a huge structure. It's the most important part to me is the structure that we can add into these children's lives. A lot of times kids come in here the first week of our 12-week program, and it's just a mess. I don't blame them. It's super exciting. There's so many things. It's like, putting a kid in a candy shop, telling them not to touch anything.
Yeah.
The same thing when they come in here. It's like, they're like little dogs. Like, what can I touch? What can I do? Like, where can I go?
Yeah.
But we very quickly explain to them, we have a structure, and the coaches do a tremendous job of teaching them that. And by the 4th or 5th week, they are just like little ducks in a row. We have these orange lines everywhere. We have numbers on the floor. We have X's on the floor, and orange lines mean that's where you're supposed to wait for your turn. The X's on the floor indicate that there's a return station. So, a lot of parents want to know, like, well, when, one kid's on the obstacle and there's other 4 or 5 kids in the group, are those kids just standing there waiting? And once again, coming from the gentleman in Connecticut, these fantastic ideas of, these X's on the floor indicate things that we call return stations. They're just side stations that they can safely do. it helps with the skills that they'll need to do those obstacles. And then it keeps them super busy and it keeps them moving. So instead of just standing there waiting around for their turn, almost every kid is busy,
Okay.
you know?
So they're not just going through an obstacle and then waiting for the rest of the line to come through. They're actually going to another kind of station.
So essentially our structure is, right, we have 4 obstacles each week. It's 4 new obstacles so that the kids are, you know, on their toes and learning, and each one builds upon the weeks prior. So we're not just throwing stuff at them that they wouldn't have any idea on how to do. But then on top of that, these return stations, they're not just random things that they're doing so that we can keep them busy. They are there very, very strategically to give them the muscles or a concept that they would need to be able to do the obstacle that they're actually going to be doing when it's their turn.
Okay.
So everything is very strategically placed, and you know, everything that we do is with a very, very big intention to give them the best service we could possibly give them.
Okay. How do you you must have some kids, obviously there's going to be kids that come through and they could do a lot of different things, and then there's other kids that maybe they're nervous about doing the first obstacle. There must be a team building portion of that where everybody's encouraging everybody on, and also there must be a development part of it, I feel, just looking at all of this, and the last time I visited you, really teaching them that they can do all these things, and confidence building. That's really what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So yes, that is correct. There are some kids that come in here and they definitely don't need to be pushed at all. They're just gung-ho, ready to go. Even if they can't do an obstacle, they're just excited to try and give it everything that they can. And then we do have the case where, you know, sometimes I almost feel like parents just sign their kid up maybe without the child knowing that this is what they're going to be doing. And they might
get them out of the house for the day.
Yeah, they're going to be a little bit shocked about that. And maybe this wasn't necessarily their idea. But I will say, one, it really stems or starts with the coaches. When I go through the hiring process, it's definitely not easy. As you could tell, this is something very unique. So it's not like there's just a huge array of people to choose from that are willing to coach something like this. But when I hire, it's actually more, what's your experience with children? Are you just passionate about working with children? And then everything else can come from that, right?
Right.
So to me, what's the majority of our business? It's working with children. So you should be passionate about that. And all of our staff here are, almost to a fault. You know, I have coaches here that, you know, don't want to call out when they're sick because it's one of their favorite kids' day at the studio, and they just don't want to miss seeing them. That's how passionate they are about working with children, and specifically the kids that they then create a bond with.
Right.
And to have that for a child, children can sense that when you genuinely want to be here for them. And that definitely helps in giving them the confidence to then just go out there and try it. And if it doesn't happen, you know, one, your coach is always going to be there for you to catch you if you fall. And two, that this is an environment we're creating, once again, from the coaches down. If other children see the coaches being that, you know, positive and encouraging, it just stems right down to the other kids. Most of the time you walk in here, there are kids just cheering on other children. And once again, it might be a little extreme to hear a kid just constantly, go on and go, go on and go, go on and go. But what better to have, you know, the other kids in the facility cheering you on that you've never even met before. You know, that's just going to help you let go of that fear and at least try. You know, and that's really all we can ask for, because if you're not willing to try, then we can't go from there. But if you are willing to try, there's so much room for you to grow.
You must have some like breakthrough children that came in, maybe they're not doing good in school, maybe they're having trouble making friends, etc. Tell us a little bit about that and how Smithtown Ninja has helped them break out of their shell.
Yeah, so we definitely get that actually more than you would think. We've had kids kind of spend summers with us, and it might be super challenging even for the coaches to get them to feel comfortable being here or even being with us. But after being with us for, months and months at a time, it's really cool to see them just transform and become these confident individuals that then, thinking of one specific scenario, end up being that kid now that's trying to help a kid that was just like them, right? That full 180 where they're
Right.
now on the other side of it.
Right. So they've
there's
learned.
now, whereas they would have been like that angry little kid that just didn't want to have anyone around them or do any of this or even be encouraged by the other kids, now being that kid that's trying to encourage who they used to be.
Right.
Like prime example, like quote from that child, I used to be in your shoes. I know exactly how you feel, and I promise you it will get better. And that was actually just the other day.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it's really cool to see that, and that's just one example. That was like one of our older boys. But yeah, it's definitely really cool.
That's got to be rewarding in itself. Taking on this venture of this big, facility and everything like that. But then at the end of the day, it's not about making money in your business. It's about seeing that one child that you made a difference in.
Absolutely. And when I get the parents to come to me and thank me for something like that, that's when it's just like, all right, all these sleepless nights or, all of this stress that I deal with on a daily basis, that all means nothing. Like, it's all worth it, to be able to, have a parent come over to me and say, thank you for what you're doing. Like, thank you for even being here, to give my kid that type of confidence is something that, like, we can't really thank you enough for.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome facility. And I think you guys are doing great things here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you. I think that, it was obviously for a reason.
Oh, of course.
And thank you for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate it.
Cool.